The data stream flickered across 1,000 screens at once, each one monitoring a different section of empty space. Deep inside the Varnesh Empire's outer monitoring facility, technicians barely paid attention anymore. Nothing ever happened out here. The void between galaxies was just that, void and empty and boring. Then every alarm in the station screamed at the same time. Junior analyst Rena dropped her datapad. The sound was so loud and sudden that half the staff jumped from their seats. Red lights bathed the entire command center. On the main display, a single white dot moved across the black background faster than anything Rena had ever seen. "Contact the Admiral," Senior Monitor Halvek barked, his forearms moving across multiple control panels. "Now!" Rena's hands shook as she opened the communication channel. Admiral Kelvin Brast appeared on screen within seconds, his scaled face showing immediate concern. Behind him, Rena could see the luxury of his flagship quarters, but the Admiral's expression killed any sense of comfort. "Report," Brast said simply. "Sir, we have an unidentified vessel. It appeared at Sector 792 without any jump signature. No engine trails. No energy buildup. It was just suddenly there." Halvek's voice remained steady, but Rena could hear the confusion underneath. "Speed is impossible. The computer keeps rejecting the calculations. Show me." The image transferred to Brast's screen. Even through the video link, Rena saw his eyes widen. The white dot moved across space at speeds that broke every known law of physics. Ships needed time to accelerate. They needed engines that glowed hot enough to see from light years away. This thing had neither. "Database match?" Brast asked. "Nothing, sir. We've checked every registry in known space. Every empire, every independent colony, every exploration vessel logged in the past 1,000 years. This ship doesn't exist in our records." "Where did it come from?" Halvek hesitated. "The dead sector, sir." Silence filled the channel. Rena knew what that meant. Everyone knew. The dead sector was where civilizations went to die. A region of space so hostile that every species that ventured there never returned. Ancient warnings marked it as forbidden territory across hundreds of cultures. "Are you certain?" Brast's voice had gone quiet. "Yes, sir. We tracked the trajectory backward. It came straight from the heart of the dead sector. And it's heading toward us? Toward Imperial space, yes, sir. At its current speed, it will cross our border in 6 hours." Brast turned away from the screen, speaking to someone off camera. When he looked back, his expression had hardened into military efficiency. "I'm calling an emergency council session. Continue monitoring. Try every communication frequency we have. If that thing so much as changes course, I want to know immediately." The channel closed. Rena looked at Halvek, who was already working on the communication protocols. She moved back to her station and pulled up the long-range sensors, trying to get any more information about the mysterious vessel. The more she looked, the less sense it made. The ship's energy signature shifted constantly, as if it couldn't decide what it was. Sometimes it read as biological matter, other times as pure energy. Most of the time it registered as something the computer couldn't even classify. The shape was wrong too. Not angular like military vessels or smooth like civilian craft. It looked almost grown rather than built. "I'm getting nothing on communications," Halvek announced to the room. "Tried every known frequency. It's either not receiving or choosing not to respond." Hours passed in tense silence. Rena watched as the council convened on the main screen, representatives from a dozen different species arguing over what to do. The humans sent their diplomat, a woman named Petra Oren who spoke with calm authority despite the chaos around her. The insectoid commander Rel provided military analysis. A human scientist named Yuki Tanaka presented theories that Rena barely understood, but it was Admiral Brast who made the decision. "We intercept," he declared. "Form a joint fleet. If this vessel is hostile, we need overwhelming force. If it's peaceful, we need to show strength," Petra Oren objected. "We don't know their intentions. An aggressive stance might provoke them." "They came from the dead sector," Brast replied. "Nothing peaceful comes from there." The council voted. Within an hour, ships from 6 different empires began moving toward the intercept point. Rena watched them gather on her screens, their combined firepower enough to crack a moon. Still, she felt uneasy. Whatever this unknown vessel was, it had survived in a place that killed entire civilizations. "Sir," she called out to Halvek, "the ship just changed speed. Faster?" "No, slower. It's decelerating." That made no sense. If the ship was fleeing or attacking, why slow down? Unless it wanted to be caught. Unless this was exactly what it intended. Halvek relayed the information to the fleet. Rena pulled up the tactical display, watching the combined forces move into position around the projected intercept point. The unknown ship would arrive there in less than an hour. Then they would have answers, or war. She thought about the dead sector, about all the species that vanished into that darkness. What could survive there? What would it learn? What would it become? The questions circled in her mind as the distance closed. On her screen, the white dot continued its steady approach. Behind it, the dead sector stretched like an open mouth, dark and hungry and full of secrets. Ahead of it, the gathered might of multiple empires waited with weapons charged and shields raised. Rena realized she was holding her breath. Across the command center, every technician watched their screens in absolute silence. The moment stretched, tension building with each passing second. Then her screen flashed a new alert. "Contact in 5 minutes," she announced. Halvek nodded grimly. "May the ancestors protect us all." The white dot grew larger, becoming a shape, becoming real. Soon they would see what emerged from the dead sector. Soon they would know if humanity and all the other species of known space faced a new ally, or a force that would end them all. The intercepting fleet hung in space like a wall of steel and fire, 60 ships from 6 different empires, all pointing their weapons at a single spot where the unknown vessel would emerge from faster-than-light travel. Admiral Brast watched from his flagship, hands clasped behind his back, trying to appear calm while his heart raced. "All ships report ready," Commander Rel said from the tactical station. The insectoid officer's compound eyes reflected the glow of dozens of targeting displays. "Hold positions," Brast ordered. "Nobody fires without my direct command." Petra Oren stood beside him on the bridge, her human face tight with worry. This could be a terrible mistake. We're treating them like enemies before we even know who they are. They came from the dead sector. That alone makes them dangerous, or desperate, or lost, or searching for help. Before Brast could respond, space itself seemed to tear open. The unknown ship dropped out of faster than light speed without the usual flash of energy or ripple of disturbed space. It simply appeared as if it had always been there. Every sensor screen in the fleet went wild. The vessel looked like nothing in any database. Its hull seemed to shift between solid metal and something organic, almost alive. No visible engines, no weapon ports, no communication arrays. The surface rippled with patterns that hurt to look at. Geometric shapes that twisted in ways that shouldn't be possible. The ship was massive too, easily 3 times the size of Brast's flagship. "What in the name of the ancestors is that thing?" Rel whispered. Dr. Yuki Tanaka's voice came through the communication channel from the science vessel. "I'm reading biological signatures mixed with advanced technology. It's like the ship is partially alive. The energy output is off every scale we have. Try hailing them again," Brast ordered. The communication officer worked for several minutes, cycling through every known frequency and protocol. Nothing. The ship hung there in silence, not moving, not responding, just existing in a way that made everyone deeply uncomfortable. Then it started broadcasting. The sound filled every ship simultaneously. Ancient languages, thousands of them, speaking in voices that ranged from human to completely alien. Rena, still monitoring from the distant station, recognized a few. Dead Earth dialects from before humans even reached space. Extinct alien tongues that nobody had spoken in millennia. Through the chaos of ancient voices, one phrase repeated in modern galactic standard: "We seek the descendants." Petra grabbed Brast's arm. "That's us. They're looking for humans. Some of those languages are from Earth's ancient history." "Could be a trick," Brast said, but uncertainty crept into his voice. "Or it could be first contact with something we need to understand, not destroy." The unknown ship began moving slowly toward the fleet, not threatening, just drifting forward as if curious. Brast felt sweat form on his scales. The moment balanced on a knife edge. One wrong decision could start a war or destroy a chance at something unprecedented. "Sir," Rel said urgently, "the Corvian cruiser is charging weapons. Tell them to stand down. They're not responding to orders." Time slowed. Brast saw it happening but couldn't stop it. The Corvian captain, panicked and trigger-happy, fired a full weapons barrage at the unknown ship. Energy beams and explosive projectiles streaked across the void, enough firepower to gut a battleship. The unknown ship's hull rippled. The attack simply vanished into its surface like stones into water. Not deflected or absorbed, they just ceased to exist. Then the ship responded. A pulse of energy exploded outward, invisible but devastating. Every ship in the fleet went dark. Engines died. Weapons powered down. Life support switched to emergency backup. On Brast's bridge, half the systems failed instantly. Emergency lighting cast everything in red shadows. "Damage report," Brast shouted. "No physical damage, sir," a technician called back. "Everything's just turned off. It's like the ship reached out and switched us all off." The unknown vessel continued broadcasting its message. "We seek the descendants." The same phrase, calm and patient as if nothing had happened. Petra moved to the still-functioning communication panel. "This is Petra Oren, human representative of the Galactic Council. We hear your message. Please identify yourself. We mean no harm." For a long moment nothing changed. Then the thousands of ancient voices stopped. One voice, human and clear, replaced them. "Identifying. We are the Genesis fleet. We have returned." Brast felt his blood run cold. Every human in the fleet knew that name. The Genesis fleet was legend. A group of colony ships that vanished 800 years ago. They carried experimental technology and thousands of colonists into the dead sector, trying to terraform new worlds. Everyone assumed they died within the first year. "The Genesis fleet is gone," Petra said carefully. "Lost centuries ago." "Not lost, changed, evolved. We survived. Now we search for family, for home, for the children of Earth who remained behind." Yuki's voice broke in, excited and terrified at once. "Admiral, I'm picking up human DNA signatures from that ship. But they're modified beyond anything we've ever attempted. These are humans, but they've changed themselves in ways we can't even classify." The unknown ship, the Genesis fleet vessel, began powering up something new. Energy gathered along its hull in patterns that made sensors scream warnings. Every captain in the fleet tensed, waiting for the killing blow. Instead, the ship vanished, not jumped away or flew off at high speed. It simply ceased to exist in that spot and existed somewhere else, gone in a fraction of a second using technology that shouldn't be possible. Power slowly returned to the fleet. Systems came back online one by one. Brast stood in the middle of his bridge, surrounded by confused and frightened officers, trying to process what just happened. "They could have destroyed us," Petra said quietly. "They disabled our entire fleet with one pulse. But they didn't kill anyone. They just wanted us to listen." "Genesis fleet," Brast repeated. "If that's true, if humans somehow survived in the dead sector and came back with technology like that..." He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Everyone understood the implications. Humanity had just become the most dangerous species in known space, and nobody saw it coming. Owen Harris wiped grease from his hands and stared at the broken mining drill with frustration. 3 days of work and the thing still wouldn't start properly. His small colony on the edge of human space didn't have money for new equipment, so he spent most of his time keeping old machines running with spare parts and prayers. The settlement around him was quiet in the afternoon heat. 200 people living in prefabricated buildings, mining rare minerals from a planet nobody else wanted. It wasn't glamorous work, but it was honest. Owen had grown up here, learned his trade from his father, and expected to die here eventually. That was fine with him. Simple life, simple problems. Then the sky changed. Owen looked up to see something blocking out the sun. Not a cloud. Ships didn't get that big. But there it was, hovering above the colony like a mountain made of metal and something else. Something that seemed to breathe. Alarms started blaring from the colony's communication center. People ran from buildings, pointing and shouting. Owen stood frozen, watching the massive vessel hang in the air as if gravity meant nothing to it. The ship's surface moved like living skin, patterns flowing across it that made his eyes water. "Everyone stay calm," Colony Administrator Hendricks shouted through the emergency speakers. "Get to the shelters." This is not a drill, but Owen didn't move toward the shelters. Something about the ship felt wrong for an attack. It wasn't firing weapons or deploying troops. It just sat there, broadcasting the same message over and over. "We seek the descendants." Owen recognized the voice as human. Modified, strange, but definitely human. He made a decision that everyone later called either brave or stupid. While the rest of the colony hid, Owen grabbed a communication device and walked out to the open landing pad. He activated the device and spoke clearly. "This is Owen Harris of the New Hope mining colony. We're just workers here, not military. Not important. If you're looking for humans, we're humans. What do you want?" The ship's response came immediately. A beam of soft light surrounded Owen, lifting him gently into the air. He should have been terrified. Instead, he felt calm, almost peaceful. The light carried him up toward the ship and an opening appeared in the hull, organic doors peeling back like flower petals. Inside, everything was wrong and right at the same time. The corridors seemed to be made of metal that breathed. Lights glowed from no visible source. The air smelled like a forest after rain, fresh and alive. Owen walked forward, following a pull he couldn't explain. He found them in what might have been a bridge or command center. Humans, but changed. Their skin had patterns of light moving beneath it. Their eyes glowed faintly. Some had what looked like organic technology growing directly from their bodies, circuits and wires that were also veins and nerves. They moved with perfect grace, each gesture flowing into the next. A woman stepped forward. She looked the most human of the group, though silver lines traced her face and her hair moved without wind. "I am Captain Nora Wells of the Genesis Fleet," she said. Her voice was warm despite the strangeness of her appearance. "Thank you for not hiding. Thank you for speaking to us," Owen found his courage. "Everyone thinks the Genesis Fleet died 800 years ago. We nearly did. The dead sector is called dead for good reason. Hostile forces, deadly environments, reality itself breaks down in some areas. We survived by changing, by merging with our technology, by evolving beyond what we were." Nora gestured around the ship. "This vessel is as much alive as we are. Grown, not built. We are as much part of it as it is part of us. Why come back now? Because we're dying in a different way. Our population is small. We've been isolated for centuries. We need genetic diversity or we'll fade into nothing. We need culture, art, stories, connection. We need to remember what it means to be human, not just what it means to survive." Owen looked at the others on the bridge. Some appeared almost normal. Others had changed so much they barely looked human anymore. But in their glowing eyes he saw loneliness, the kind that came from centuries of being cut off from everything you once knew. "The galaxy thinks you're a threat," Owen said honestly. "They tried to intercept you. We know. We disabled their fleet without harming anyone. We could have destroyed them easily. But we won't attack our own distant family or their allies. We only want to come home." Nora led Owen deeper into the ship, showing him wonders he could barely understand. Gardens that grew in zero gravity, rooms where the walls showed memories from 800 years ago. Earth before the Genesis fleet left. Children played in corridors looking more human than their parents, as if each generation was slowly shifting back toward what they once were. "We've sent out messages to every human colony we could find," Nora explained. "Most ran or called for military help. You're the first to actually talk to us. I'm just a mechanic. You're a bridge. The first person to see us as refugees instead of invaders." Owen spent hours aboard the ship learning their story. The horrors of the dead sector. The alien forces they fought and sometimes befriended. The technology they developed out of desperate necessity. The loneliness of knowing Earth existed, but being unable to return until they were strong enough to survive the journey. When Nora finally returned him to the colony, the sun was setting. The ship lifted away slowly, gracefully, disappearing into the evening sky. Owen stood on the landing pad, changed by what he'd seen. The colony administrator ran up, furious and relieved. "What were you thinking? You could have been killed." "They're not enemies," Owen said. "They're family who've been gone too long." He pulled out the communication device Nora had given him. It was made of that strange living metal, warm to the touch. "A direct line to the Genesis fleet. They'll be back," Owen continued. "And when they return, we need to help them. Because if we don't, if we treat them like threats, we lose something precious. We lose proof that humans can survive anything, even the impossible." Above them, stars began appearing in the darkening sky. Somewhere out there, the Genesis fleet traveled through space, searching for home. And now, finally, they had someone willing to help them find it. The Galactic Council chamber erupted into chaos the moment Captain Nora Wells walked through the doors. Representatives from a dozen species jumped from their seats, some in fear, others in anger. Guards raised weapons before Admiral Brast ordered them to stand down. The human woman with silver lines tracing her face moved with inhuman grace to the center of the room, unbothered by the reaction. Petra Oren stood quickly. "Please, everyone, let her speak. This is a diplomatic meeting, not a trial." "Diplomatic?" The Varnesh trade minister's forearms gestured wildly. "That thing disabled our entire fleet. It violated sovereign space. It appeared from the dead sector and now we're supposed to talk?" "I am not a thing," Nora said calmly. I am human. Changed, yes, but still human. My crew and I have traveled very far to find our home. We came in peace. Yuki Tanaka, attending as a scientific advisor, leaned forward with intense curiosity. How did you survive in the dead sector? Every expedition sent there for the past 3,000 years never returned. Nora's expression darkened. We nearly didn't survive. The first 50 years killed most of us. The environments are toxic. Reality breaks down in places. And there are things there, ancient and hostile, that hunt anything living. She paused, collecting herself. We survived by adapting. We merged our biology with our technology. We grew our ships instead of building them. We became something new because staying as we were meant death. This evolution you describe, Yuki pressed, unable to contain her scientific interest. Can you reverse it? Some of it. Our children are born less changed than we are. Each generation becomes slightly more human again, but it will take centuries to fully return to baseline if we ever do. Commander Rell spoke up, mandibles clicking thoughtfully. Your technology is far beyond ours. Your ships can disable entire fleets. Why return at all? You could conquer known space easily. Because conquest isn't survival, Nora replied. We number only 12,000 across all our ships. We're genetically isolated. Without new blood, new ideas, new culture, we'll stagnate and die. We don't want to rule. We want to reconnect. The Corvian ambassador, whose captain had fired on the Genesis fleet, stood aggressively. You expect us to believe you're helpless? You who came from a place that kills civilizations? Share your technology or leave our space. No. The single word silenced the room. Nora met the ambassador's glare without flinching. Our technology evolved from 800 years of desperate survival in hell. We won't hand it over to be weaponized. We'll share medical knowledge, agricultural techniques, peaceful applications, but the weapons, the ships, the things we built to fight the horrors of the dead sector stay with us. Petra sensed the mood turning dangerous. Perhaps we could arrange cultural exchanges. Let our people meet, learn about each other naturally, build trust over time. Time, the Varnish trade minister scoffed. Time for them to study our defenses and plan invasion. Admiral Brast, who had been silent until now, stood. Enough, I've studied their actions carefully. They disabled our fleet without killing anyone. They could have destroyed us, but chose restraint. They approach colonies peacefully. These are not the actions of conquerors. They're the actions of scouts, a voice called from the back, testing our responses before the real attack. Arguments broke out across the chamber. Some species wanted to accept the Genesis fleet as long-lost human cousins. Others demanded they leave immediately or share all their secrets. A few suggested capturing their ships by force for study. The noise grew deafening. Nora raised her hand and silence fell unnaturally. Those closest to her realized she'd used some kind of technology to dampen sound. When she lowered her hand, voices returned, but everyone remained quiet. You debate while my people wait in the void between stars, she said. We came seeking family. We found fear and greed. Perhaps we were wrong to return. Wait, Petra said urgently. Give us time. Change doesn't happen overnight. We've waited 800 years already. In that moment, alarms shrieked through the station. A technician burst into the chamber, face pale. Admiral, we're detecting Varnesh military ships moving toward the Genesis fleet position. They're not responding to orders. Brast's scales flushed with anger. Who authorized this? The trade minister smiled coldly. The Empire takes what threats we must. If they won't share their technology willingly, we'll take it by force. Nora's eyes began glowing brighter. You attack my people? 3 ships have opened fire, the technician reported, voice shaking. The Genesis vessel is under attack. Energy crackled around Nora's body. The lights in the chamber flickered. Everyone felt a pressure in the air, like standing before a storm about to break. Petra realized with horror that Nora wasn't just connected to her ship. She was part of it. She could feel what it felt, know what it knew. Nora, please, Petra begged. Don't retaliate. We can stop this. Your people are killing mine. 3 ships don't represent everyone. Don't let this become a war. Time seemed to freeze. Nora stood trembling with rage and fear, her body caught between human and something else. Patterns of light raced beneath her skin. Her eyes reflected images that no one else could see. The battle happening far away, playing out in her mind. Then she gasped and fell to her knees. What happened? Yuki rushed to her side. I called them, Nora whispered. The others. The rest of the fleet. They're here now. On the main display, space filled with ships. Not one Genesis vessel, but 12. Each one massive and powerful, appearing from nowhere like ghosts becoming real. The 3 attacking Varnesh ships found themselves surrounded by technology 800 years more advanced. Born from survival in the cruelest place in the galaxy. "Order your ships to stand down," Nora said, looking at Brast. "Or I order mine to defend themselves." The Admiral moved quickly to the communication panel. "All Varnesh forces cease fire immediately. This is direct order from Admiral Brast. Ceasefire or face court-martial." The tension stretched like a wire about to snap. On the display, weapons locked, shields flared, 2 forces on the absolute edge of war. One wrong move, one panicked shot, and thousands would die. Then the Varnesh ships powered down their weapons and retreated. Nora stood slowly, her appearance shifting back toward normal human, as she disconnected from her direct link with the fleet. She looked exhausted and sad. "We could have destroyed them," she said quietly. "Our weapons could have torn those ships apart. But we didn't, because taking life even in defense means we become the monsters you fear." She walked toward the exit, pausing at the doorway. "We'll stay in deep space for now, away from your borders. When you're ready to see us as family instead of threats, Owen Harris has a way to contact us. Until then, we'll wait. We've gotten good at waiting." The doors closed behind her, leaving the council chamber in stunned silence. 3 weeks passed in uneasy peace. The Genesis fleet maintained position in deep space, far from any established territories. They didn't approach. They didn't threaten. They simply existed, a reminder that humanity had evolved into something the galaxy didn't know how to handle. Owen Harris became the unlikely bridge between 2 worlds. Using the communication device Nora gave him, he organized small meetings. Scientists like Yuki traveled to his mining colony to speak with Genesis representatives. Some human colonies sent delegates. Slowly, carefully, trust began building. Then the Varnesh Empire made their move. The attack came during what was supposed to be a cultural exchange ceremony. 50 humans from various colonies had gathered at a neutral station to meet with Genesis delegates. Children performed music. Artists shared work. Food from Earth and the Genesis worlds filled long tables. It was peaceful, hopeful, a glimpse of what cooperation might look like. Admiral Brast attended personally, having grown to respect the Genesis survivors. Petra coordinated the event. Owen helped translate between baseline human culture and the strange customs the Genesis people had developed. Even Commander Rel came, fascinated by the biological technology on display. The Genesis ship Sanctuary floated nearby, smaller than the massive vessel that first appeared but still impressive. Its living hull glowed softly in the station's lights. Nora and 20 of her crew mingled with the visitors, answering questions, sharing stories of the dead sector. Nobody noticed the Varnesh battle group until weapons fire lit up space. The station shook. Alarms screamed. Through the viewport, Owen saw 6 Varnesh warships dropping out of faster than light speed, weapons already firing. They weren't aiming at the station. They targeted the Sanctuary. "Shields failing," someone shouted. The Genesis ship tried to maneuver, but it was a cultural vessel, not prepared for combat. Energy beams tore into its hull. The living metal screamed, a sound that resonated through space and into everyone's bones. Nora collapsed, gasping. Owen caught her as she fell. Her eyes blazed with pain and fury. "They're killing my ship. I can feel it dying." "Get everyone to the escape pods," Brast ordered, his military training taking over. Now, but it was too late. The Varnesh ships launched boarding parties. Assault shuttles punched through the station's hangar doors. Armored troops poured out, weapons raised. Their target was clear: capture the Genesis delegates before they could escape. "This is treason," Brast roared into his communicator. "I'm ordering you to stand down." "Your orders mean nothing," came the response. "The Empire wants their technology. We'll take it from their corpses if necessary." The station turned into a battlefield. Security forces tried to fight back but were overwhelmed. Civilians screamed and ran. Owen grabbed Nora, pulling her toward cover as energy blasts scorched the walls around them. "Call your fleet," he shouted. "You need help." "Already done," Nora gasped. Her body was changing, becoming less human and more like the ship. Silver lines spread across her skin, glowing hot. "They're coming. But they're far away. Minutes we might not have." Yuki appeared from a side corridor, pulling 2 Genesis children with her. "This way." I know a maintenance route to the shuttle bay. They ran through chaos. Varnish soldiers hunted the Genesis delegates systematically. Owen saw one soldier corner a young Genesis man. Before he could think, Owen tackled the soldier, wrestling for his weapon. The soldier was stronger, better trained, but Owen was desperate. He managed to trigger the weapon, the blast going wide but giving them enough time to escape. Admiral Brast found them in the maintenance corridor. His uniform was scorched, and he carried an energy rifle taken from a fallen soldier. I've secured a shuttle. Follow me. They fought their way through the station. Brast proved why he'd risen to admiral, moving with practiced efficiency, each shot precise and economical. Petra joined them along the way, her diplomatic clothes torn but her spirit unbroken. Commander Rel appeared from another passage, his insectoid body perfectly designed for combat, mandibles clicking in fierce determination. "This is wrong," Rel said, firing at pursuing Varnesh troops. "This violates every code of military honor." They reached the shuttle bay to find it blocked by a squad of Varnesh elites. The soldiers had 3 Genesis delegates captured, including one of Nora's senior officers. The officer's name was Silas, half his body clearly mechanical, the other half human. Blood ran from wounds in both. "Release them," Brast demanded. The squad leader laughed. "You're outnumbered, Admiral. Surrender or die." Then space outside the station tore open. Not one Genesis ship arrived, not 2. All 12 massive vessels appeared simultaneously, surrounding the station like protective giants. Their living hulls pulsed with power. Weapons ports opened that had remained hidden until now, revealing technology that made every sensor scream in warning. The station's communication system crackled. Nora's voice, amplified and changed by her connection to the fleet, filled every corridor. "Release our people. Withdraw your forces. You have 30 seconds. You won't fire," the squad leader said. "Too many civilians. Too much risk." 20 seconds. Owen felt the air pressure change. Reality itself seemed to bend around the Genesis ships. He saw Nora's body glowing brighter, felt power building that made his teeth ache. Whatever weapons the Genesis fleet possessed, they were about to demonstrate them. 10 seconds. Admiral Brast stepped forward, placing himself between the squad and the shuttle. "As the ranking military officer present, I order you to stand down. If you don't, you're not just attacking them. You're attacking me and every soldier who believes in honor over greed." Commander Rel moved to stand beside him, then Petra, then Yuki. One by one, humans and aliens who believed in peace positioned themselves as shields. 5 seconds. The squad leader's weapon shook. He looked at his soldiers, saw doubt in their eyes. They were warriors, not murderers. This wasn't combat. It was execution. "Stand down," he finally said. The Genesis ships held their position. The captured delegates were released. The Varnesh forces began withdrawing, shame evident in their movements. They'd expected easy prey and found something else entirely: unity between species that refused to let fear win. Nora collapsed into Owen's arms, her body returning to normal as she disconnected from the fleet. She was crying, tears mixing with the faint glow still fading from her skin. "We could have destroyed them," she whispered. "Our weapons could have torn this station apart to get to our people. But we would have killed innocents, killed the very people we came back to find." Owen held her while the situation stabilized. Emergency crews rushed in. Medical teams treated the wounded. The Varnesh forces retreated to their ships and jumped away in disgrace. In the aftermath, something changed. The galaxy had seen the Genesis fleet's power and their restraint. They could have chosen vengeance. They chose mercy. That changed everything. The aftermath of the attack brought unexpected consequences. The Varnesh Empire faced universal condemnation. 3 of their admirals were arrested for ordering the assault. Trade agreements collapsed. Other species that had viewed the Genesis fleet with suspicion now saw them as victims defending themselves with remarkable restraint. Public opinion shifted overnight. Admiral Brast became a hero for standing against his own empire's aggression. He faced court-martial for disobeying orders, but the trial turned into a platform where he exposed the corruption and fear-mongering that led to the attack. The military tribunal, to everyone's surprise, not only acquitted him but promoted him to a new position, liaison between the Varnesh Empire and the Genesis fleet. Petra worked day and night drafting a new treaty. The Galactic Council, shocked by how close they'd come to a catastrophic war, moved with unusual speed. After 2 weeks of negotiation, the treaty was ready. Owen stood on the observation deck of the council station, watching the signing ceremony through a window. Nora stood beside him, looking more human than he'd ever seen her. The silver lines were fading from her face. She'd told him that disconnecting from the ships for extended periods allowed some of the changes to reverse. "Are you sure about this?" Owen asked. "No," Nora admitted. "But it's the best chance we have." Below them, representatives gathered. Petra signed for the human colonies. Brast for the Varnish Empire. Leaders from 6 other major species added their marks. The treaty was simple but profound. The Genesis fleet would be recognized as an independent human nation with full sovereignty. They would maintain control of the dead sector, but open its edges for limited joint exploration. They would share medical technology and agricultural advances. In return, they asked for something simple: the right to visit human worlds, to exchange culture and genetics voluntarily, to reconnect with the family they'd been forced to leave behind. "They're giving us everything we asked for," Nora said quietly. "Because they saw what you could have done and what you chose not to do," Owen replied. "That matters more than any weapon." The signing completed. Cheers erupted from the assembled delegates. Not everyone was happy. Some species still feared what the Genesis fleet represented, but the majority chose hope over fear. Days later, Owen found himself aboard one of the Genesis ships traveling toward the dead sector. Nora had invited him to see their home. Dozens of other humans volunteered for the journey. Scientists and colonists and even some soldiers who wanted to understand these changed cousins. Yuki practically vibrated with excitement as they approached the boundary. "The readings are incredible. Space itself behaves differently here. I can't wait to study it." The transition into the dead sector was disorienting. Colors shifted. Stars appeared wrong. Owen's stomach churned as physics bent around them. But the Genesis ship navigated it effortlessly, following paths only it could sense. They emerged into a region of space that shouldn't exist. Planets clustered impossibly close together. Nebulas glowed with colors that had no name. And there, hanging in the void, was the Genesis civilization. Not cities floating in space, living structures, grown from the same technology as their ships. Gardens spiraled through zero gravity. Children played in corridors, where walls showed memories from Earth. The Genesis people had built a culture that mixed human tradition with 800 years of unique evolution. "This is home," Nora said softly. Owen saw it in their faces. Despite all their changes, despite becoming something new, they'd kept their humanity. They told stories around communal tables. They created art. They laughed and argued and loved. They were still human where it mattered, in their hearts and spirits. Over the following weeks, a steady exchange began. Baseline humans traveled to the dead sector to learn. Genesis people visited Earth and the colonies to remember. Yuki worked with Genesis scientists, making breakthroughs in biological technology that would revolutionize medicine across the galaxy. Admiral Brast trained with Genesis military forces, combining traditional tactics with their advanced capabilities to create new defensive strategies. Owen made his choice 3 months after the treaty signing. He stood in a medical bay aboard the primary Genesis vessel, Nora beside him. The procedure she offered wasn't full evolution. It was a middle path, a way to adapt some of the Genesis changes without losing himself completely. "It will hurt," she warned, "and you can't go back, I know. But I've seen both worlds now. I want to be part of the bridge between them. Not fully baseline, not fully evolved, something in between." The procedure took 6 hours. Owen felt his body changing, felt technology merging with biology in ways that should be impossible. When it ended, he could sense the ship around him, feel its living presence. His eyes glowed faintly in the dark. But he was still Owen, still himself, just expanded. He became the first of many. Humans who chose partial evolution to better work with the Genesis people. Genesis individuals who used new genetic therapy to shift back toward baseline humanity. A new generation born from the mixing of both groups, carrying the best of both worlds. Commander Rel visited the dead sector and made a startling discovery. The hostile forces that drove the Genesis fleet to evolve were ancient machines, remnants of a civilization millions of years old. They attacked anything biological out of corrupted programming, but they ignored anything that was partially mechanical. The Genesis evolution wasn't just adaptation, It was survival strategy against a threat the rest of the galaxy didn't know existed. There are more of these machines, Rel reported to the Galactic Council. If the Genesis fleet hadn't learned to fight them, they would have eventually spread beyond the dead sector. They saved us without us even knowing. The revelation changed everything again. The Genesis fleet wasn't just refugees or potential threats. They were guardians holding back a danger that could destroy all organic life. 1 year after first contact, Owen stood with Nora on the observation deck of a joint exploration vessel. Human, Varnesh, Insectoid, and Genesis crew worked together, preparing to map deeper regions of the dead sector. Behind them, Admiral Brast coordinated with Genesis commanders. Petra negotiated with newly discovered civilizations that had been hiding in the sector for centuries. Yuki designed new ships that combined the best of all galactic technology. "We did it," Nora said. "We came home." "You never left," Owen replied, his now glowing eyes reflecting starlight. "You just took the long way back." The ship jumped into the unknown, carrying hope and unity into a region that had only known death. The Genesis fleet had returned not as conquerors or threats but as family who survived the impossible and came back to share their strength. And humanity, both baseline and evolved, proved what they'd always been best at: adapting, surviving, and bringing others together in the face of any challenge. The dead sector wasn't dead anymore. It was becoming something new, a place where different species and different versions of humanity learned to build something better together. And at the heart of it all was the simple truth that bringing people home mattered more than any technology or weapon ever could.